Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Monday, June 16th. I'll call the meeting to order. I just have one opening comment reminder that July 1st is coming. We do have a lot of visitors coming to the valley, and I'm asking all businesses, residents, especially those along the parade route, to just make sure you have all your weeds pulled, garbage cleaned up, trees trimmed if necessary. Let's just really make our community amazing for all those who come to visit July 1st. All right, do I have any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Your Worship. Administration has one emergent item, one addition, titled Access to Information Act and Protection of Privacy Act Update. And we're recommending adding it to 8.1.5.
All right, sir. I have one other thing. I have oath to office for covering holidays for, or covering deputy mayor for July and August. So can I get a motion to adopt that agenda, please? Tony?
I move that council adopt the agenda for the June 16, 2025 regular council meeting as amended.
Seconder, please. Stephanie, all in favor? Carried. Now, before we begin, I will just let Crystal read the oath to the office, please.
I, Crystal Serrata, solemnly affirm that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to the law the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Drumheller for the months of July and August 2025.
Seconder, please. Tom, all in favor of Crystal doing it again? Thank you for the first time, and thank you for covering now. All right, carried. Thanks, Crystal. Okay, can I get a motion to accept the minutes of June 2nd, please? Tom?
I move the council approve the minutes for the June 2nd, 2025 regular council meeting as presented.
Seconder, please. Crystal? Any comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And can I get a motion for 6.1, please, for the Drumheller District Seniors Foundation regular minutes? Tom?
I move the council accepts the Drumheller and District Seniors Foundation meeting minutes for the April 24th, 2025 regular meeting as information.
Seconder, please. Stephanie? Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for the Municipal Planning Commission meeting, please? Tony?
I move that council accepts the Municipal Planning Commission meeting minutes for the April 17, 2025 regular meeting as information.
Seconder, please. Crystal? Comments? All in favor? Carried. And for one more, 6.3, the Family and Community Support Services, please. Stephanie?
I move that council accepts the FCSS committee meeting minutes for the March 28th, 2025 regular meeting as information.
Seconder, please. Crystal? Comments? Crystal?
Just a reminder that we are looking for people in the community to be part of the committee, so make sure you apply online.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And for the listening public, we do that so that you can take the time, go read the minutes from those particular committees, and update and inform yourself of what's going on within them. Okay, let's move on to 7.1 RCMP 2024-25 Q4 report. Alex, thank you and welcome to Council Chambers.
Hey there, everyone. Thanks for having me. Seems to be something I take part in once every 2 or 3 years when a new detachment commander is kind of being replaced. So just a little bit about myself, Corporal Alex McDonald. I'm probably one of the longest serving members here in Drumheller. I've been here almost 6 years now with no plans of leaving. I would love to have this job officially, but it looks like I'll be acting until someone gets named. Rob's spot will close, I think, at the end of this week. So hopefully we have a name of somebody that's interested in Drumheller. I guess we'll start with the presentation here. Just push the Okay, so not a lot of craziness, I guess, to report on for the period of January 1st to the end of March. Um, we have been working at, I guess, critically low staffing numbers for the past few months. Um, oh, okay. And these critically low staffing numbers have kind of impacted everything that we've set out for goals, and um, I've never seen it this bad in Drumheller and Alberta. It seems to be across the board. Everybody's struggling. Um, we did our best to meet our quarterly goals on the APP, um, with our offender checks, with our traffic initiatives, our street sweeps, and that kind of stuff. But it was difficult to say the best, just to try to pull everybody together and get people to come out for these extra activities. But um, overall, we did well. We're still continuing to chip away at our habitual offenders with curfew checks. We have another Operation Street Sweep lined up here for the end of the month, so it'll be a big get together of all the peace officers, sheriffs, our RCMP. We'll invite other RCMP detachments like the traffic units to come out and just do an overall blitz of the community and try to, you know, show an overall presence. Um, Community engagement. We've been doing our best to get out and into the schools and um, Red Surge events, and we actually have quite a few members lined up for the Canada Day parade, which is great. We'll have a couple of vehicles out and 5 or 6 members marching, so happy with that considering our staffing levels. With substance abuse and drugs, we'll get to it in a bit. The numbers are a little low compared to this time last year, which is easily explainable because, as most of you probably know, the GIS Corporal Nick Clairbutt promoted out of Drumheller, and that left one person working in that unit. We did have that unit supplemented with a constable from the general duty side, but we had to pull that constable back as well since we were short on the floor. So really it left one person left to try to, target these offenders, and it's just not practical at this point for him to. He can't do surveillance, he can't be chasing guys, he can't be kicking doors all by himself. So unfortunately for those few months, it was a little slow in his department, but it sounds like we'll have a new supervisor in that position pretty soon, and hopefully they can get things up and running again. So yeah, just to touch on the resources that we're working with right now. We are short 5 officers out of the 15. That includes the detachment commander, obviously, the GIS corporal, 1 constable who has transferred and hasn't been replaced, and then we have 2 constables on parental leave, which we can't replace anyway. So right now I'm pulling triple duties just to try to keep things afloat. So I'm acting as detachment commander, I'm doing my supervisor duties, and I'm picking up overtime shifts essentially to fill in where the constables are, lacking, or if someone is sick or on holidays. So we're all doing our best to keep the ship afloat, and um, we're just going to try to hump it through the summer, and hopefully in the fall we get a couple new bodies and things can get back to normal. So just with the crime stats there wasn't too much that really stood out other than the drug enforcement, which I kind of touched on, and the reasons why that would be lower than normal. We have noticed a bit of an increase in property crime in the last few months, and that's just due to offenders, repeatedly being released after we arrest them, and they're back and they're doing it again, and we arrest them again and they get out again, and it's unfortunate, but these things we can't always prevent. So I think that's really all I have to touch on with the stats of the detachment, so.
All right, well, thank you, Corporal Alex. Sorry, I sometimes go casual.
That's okay.
You're used to me now. So council, do you have any questions? Tom?
Yeah, with the staffing in crisis, I guess that is most concerning, considering that the Drumheller Valley is just entering into our tourism season, where our population goes from 8,000 on a Wednesday to 25,000 on a Saturday. Is there anything that maybe we should be doing as mayor, council, administration, enlightening maybe the provincial RCMP administration into, Drumheller is a little bit different, that we do end up with significant population increase in the summer, and therefore we do need some more staff on kind of an emergent basis. Is that anything we could do to help that out?
I could look into it. I have been in talks with staffing quite frequently. And it just seems like everybody is hurting, including us. And I've explained to them, like we're not just a regular town, we are a tourist town. We need these numbers, we need to keep people coming. But at the end of the day, if the interest isn't here in Drumheller, if nobody wants to come here, or there's no cadets available, like there's just nothing we can do to pull bodies to Drumheller. So um yeah, we're just in a tough spot right now. I know other provinces are suffering as well. It seems it's hard to get people to join the Mounties lately. So I know Manitoba and Saskatchewan are also hurting, and Alberta seems to be kind of following suit. But it's just been a really busy time, especially with G7. We did lose another officer to G7 for the full month of June. So really, we've been operating with 6 less bodies. And I fought my hardest to keep that member here, but there's nothing I could do. Almost every detachment had to send somebody. So it's been tough, but we'll get through it. But I don't know. Do you guys do those annual meetings with like our white shirts there? I forget. I know the rural communities have the RMAs. Do you guys take part in a similar?
Yeah, we actually just had Alberta municipalities here last Thursday. There was discussion regarding the RCMP and policing and stuff, so I know a lot of discussion was talked about the concern of the shortage.
Yeah.
So it is across the board for sure.
Yeah. And I don't know how like a provincial police force would be any different. Like I know that's kind of the hot topic right now throughout Alberta, but if we can't get people to work for us, I don't see how it's going to be any different for another police force. I know like Calgary and Edmonton and all the other municipal forces are struggling as well. So it's just a tough time for us, unfortunately.
Yeah, I noticed on Highway 2 that they've got a bulletin board that you're hiring and stuff, so maybe hopefully that'll help.
Yeah.
Any other comments, Crystal?
Just a quick question. So there's no GIS supervisor, but there's still a GIS coordinator.
Yes.
So that work's still happening because I know how crucial that is for
Yeah.
certain specific crimes. So
Yeah, we still have one constable in the GIS position, and he's still working every day. Like he's still taking files, and he is charging people, and he's doing it the best as he can. And sometimes he'll get other units from like Strathmore to come up and assist if he's got a project on the go. But yeah, the unit's not empty, and they are still pumping out numbers, just not the same numbers as when they had 3 people, hitting the ground.
well, it's good to hear because I know how important that role is for certain, especially prolific offenders,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Well, for the most part, it's the constables that are out checking on the prolific offenders. It's kind of one of their nightly duties that we expect them to do is to go out and check on all these guys and girls. The GIS guys mostly focus on like the penitentiary and self-generated drug files. So we're still getting stuff. Like we had a really good stop there the other night on Highway 56, and that was just our general duty members alone. So just a good prolific offender stop.
Anybody else? Well, I can say you guys are doing amazing, and the community, I haven't heard any negative, and so although you're a bit short, pat yourselves on the back, because our
Thank you.
community is safe because of you, so
We're still gonna make it work, even with the
that's
short
right.
numbers, and
I
you
have
know,
all the faith.
we're all doing double or triple duties just to make sure this ship stays afloat.
Well, let's see if we can hopefully get some more to take the pressure off.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the presentation, please? Tony?
I move that council accepts the presentation of the 2024-25 Q4 report by the RCMP as information.
Seconder? Crystal, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service, and thank you
Thank you.
for everything you all do for our community. All right, let's move on to 7.2, please. Travel Drumheller, exploring transportation opportunity presentation. And Lana, we'll let you introduce yourself there.
Yes, my name is Lana Phillips. I'm the Development Implementation Manager here at Travel Drumheller. And today I'm going to talk to you about our project Destination Drumheller, which is about implementing the Destination Development Plan. And just for context, that's our regional plan for tourism growth. The vision of that plan is to be an iconic year-round destination grounded in community, and the mission of that plan is to drive significant economic and social value for Drumheller residents, businesses, and visitors throughout destination development. So today, the one topic I'm going to talk about is exploring transportation opportunities, which is our current major project and a listed initiative in the Destination Development Plan, and plays an important role in our investment and traction. And this is well timed given the increased interest in Drumheller from Travel Alberta, where we've been identified as a breakthrough destination, a focus for investment and promotions. So like I say, this is the major project I'm focusing on, but there is other work we're doing. And I apologize, I'm very stuffy, so I'll try my best. So this isn't new to any of us in this room, but I just want to remind us of the Drumheller Valley in the terms of that we're an interesting geography, given that we're such a long, skinny community. So we're over 50 kilometers long, about 2 kilometers wide. As Tom mentioned, about 8,400 folks, and we're very fortunate to be in proximity to an international airport of Calgary. We know it's a place of rich history and landscape and a community of strong people. And we know that tourism is one of the anchors in our economy, generating 1 in 4 jobs and over $116 million in annual sales. And one of our landmark destinations, the Rail to Rail, welcomes over 500,000 visitors each year, and this year will be turning 40. So we expect them to have even more visitors. But the reality, this beautiful landscape, whether you're a resident or a visitor, requires a car to move around. We're a very vehicle-driven place, which can result in both impacting residents meeting their daily needs, as well as visitors exploring our community. So we have started to make some progress. I commend the town for expanding its multi-use pathways, because that certainly provides residents and visitors a different way to move. And we do have the Valley Bus, which has been here for some time, which provides that transit opportunity to certain segments of our population. However, the connectivity across our dispersed geography remains a challenge, and it has an impact on how both residents and visitors engage in our community. Having another way to move people around the valley can help them live, work, and play differently here. It can open up new housing and labor opportunities by connecting houses that are empty with people that need to be in them, but providing them the space to still move around and connect into other community needs like their jobs or volunteerism or employment. An example of sort of this connection could be youth could use it to access, their summer jobs rather than relying on their parents to drive them around. There is a policy context in place and community research that shows there is some interest and understanding that alternative transportation, like transit, could play a role in both our community and our economy. I'll just highlight the business survey, which was completed this last sort of quarter-ish, half year. And it was for all businesses, not just tourism businesses. And 35% of employers acknowledged that public transit would help improve their employment and recruitment and retention. So they understood the value to the community. So with this context, we want to think, well, we know people are key to a vibrant community and at our core. And there's value in considering how we might link the people to the places in our community and potentially create new possibilities. So really we want to ask ourselves, how might residents and visitors move differently through Drumheller? And this project we're undertaking is really an answer. It includes two key pieces, both a pilot and a feasibility study, which I'll speak to each more. So feasibility study is really a tool that assesses what transit could look like in a community. So it's that sort of technical analysis, and it can include a number of components that it would consider. So stuff like routes, vehicle types, service options, capital and operating costs. And we have some funding to proceed with this work, so we'll be issuing a request for proposals in the summer, with this work being completed in the sort of fall winter. And I think it's important to note that while this is, we'll have consultants involved who have that specialization in transportation, it will be informed by community outreach, the experience of other communities, as well as the Destination Development Steering Committee. Now, the steering committee has been in place essentially since this Destination Development Plan implementation has been happening, and it includes representatives from across our geographical region, so our adjacent counties of Nehill, Wheatland, Starland, as well as their own town staff here, and other sort of just members who are business and citizen members to provide that broad perspective. And it's worth noting that some components of the feasibility would help inform the shuttle bus pilot. So, what is the other piece? Well, I think big picture, it's important to understand that a pilot itself is a tool for learning. So it shouldn't be perfect. It's about trying to test an idea and over time refine it to learn and gain information. And it is a way to decrease the risk versus full implementation. So at this point, we're exploring, and the plan is to set up a shuttle bus pilot for next summer, so 2026. And at this point, it would be a fixed stop route within the Drumheller boundary. And the idea is over 3 summers we do this. Each summer we would be evaluating each fall to see what worked, what didn't, and refining over time. That's the objective of pilot, is a clearly set up sort of monitoring and assessment that helps you build and learn from each time to time. And similar to the feasibility study, the shuttle would also be informed by a number of components, including input from the steering committee, the community, experience in other communities. As well, we got some rich information from the summer visitor survey that would help inform things like route and locations, the stop locations, and of course, a component of the feasibility study. Now, the town has generously put letters of support on several of the grant applications related to this project. And the support from the town has included providing the available municipal data and reports that we'll need for this analysis, enabling the use of the town's communication channels to help promote the project and engagement and activities when we get there, continued participation in the Destination Development Steering Committee, and enabling ongoing updates like this for the town and the community. We appreciate the support and know the town is an important interest holder in this project that we want to keep informed as we continue to progress. So overall, it's important to acknowledge that this project is in starting point and has us proactively looking and thinking about transportation for the future, while providing the immediate value of a shuttle that helps move people through our community in the summer. So the shuttle isn't just limited to the economic development related to tourism. We've talked with a number of commercial bus operators, and they've made it clear that having local transportation in the valley is essential to them to start a route to Drumheller. So imagine the benefit of commercial bus service coming to and from Calgary for our residents, providing an opportunity for those without vehicles to go to and from. So it shows that investment in this already could have some very impactful indirect benefits to locals and visitors. And as well, overall, the shuttle itself just enables people to connect across the valley and support them in participating in community life in different ways, whether that be working, volunteering, or playing. All of that adds vibrancy to our already growing and thriving community. And of course, the actual outcomes and deliverables, there are those sort of the paperwork we need, but it does provide that feasibility study with technical analysis, as well as each year that annual report on the shuttle bus report, so those learnings for ourselves as well as for others. And it really serves as a proof of concept for our community, should we choose to either invest public or private money to go beyond the shuttle bus. But it's a starting point for us and the region to start looking at how we move people around to support our economy. So I welcome everybody, town council, administration, and the community, to continue to stay involved through looking at our website. I've got it up there. It's a subset to the Travel Drumheller website, and signing up for our newsletter, because that will be amongst the core ways we'll communicate as the project progresses, but obviously we'll use as many channels as possible to reach people. So with that, I invite any further questions on the work we're planning to do.
Thanks, Lana. Questions? Tom?
Yeah, excellent. Lots of work going into this, and this would be an incredible thing for the valley. A little bit of a downer. We have looked at this in the past, shuttle bus service and transit service, and it always came down to finances. So will the feasibility study come up with kind of a budget where we could see, approximately how much this is going to cost, who's going to pay what, how much revenue, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, for sure. The feasibility study does include a financial component. And I think the important thing is not to prejudge the outcomes based on what we've done to past, that those past things inform the future. Because I think there's always more different opportunities to fund these things. And that's why we started with a pilot as well. So we can actually do some real world data, not just desktop data, to see what this might look like and the different forms it could take over time. So we want to use the tool, the study, as a complement to the desktop exercise of a feasibility study.
Tony?
Yeah, thank you, Lana, for the presentation there. A topic, like Tom says, that's been up a number of years over the past, and the ability whether there is a need or how much of a need. As far as the feasibility study goes, I guess that'll take us a long way to identifying that. When that study is conducted, is it going to split out the tourist number of passengers that are transported, or the local plus the tourist? I think in order to look for a longer term solution, you need to kind of identify how many locals could keep this going on, because your pilot is only looking at 3 months out of the year, right? Which will capture a bulk of the tourists, but maybe even some locals as well. So I think it's important to separate that function. I also sit as president for the Valley Bus Society, and it's something that we've been asked to look at as well. But with our mandate and our society and our status there, we have the segment that is seniors related only, and persons with disabilities. So we kind of target that and can't venture far out from that service. So this would encompass kind of like everyone else. So just curious on the feasibility study, it'd be important to separate the tourist out of that, so we could have two hard numbers there.
Yeah, for sure. That would be correct, that you want to know both levels of ridership. And the reason we're doing it this summer is because so we can get that high ridership up front to get meaningful numbers, acknowledging that both visitors and residents, there's more opportunity in the summer. And we look forward to Valley Bus also continuing to contribute their learnings to us to help inform, even though they are just serving a subset of the community. We welcome more conversations to learn. For anybody really with past history, you're welcome to approach and continue to advance our learning of the work done to date.
Crystal?
Yeah, and further just to Tony, so are you able to gather when those tour buses come here, their data when they're coming here? I know they don't let anyone know they're arriving. Is there any way to capture that?
I think Travel Drumheller, we're always working to build our network of relationships with tour bus providers. This is a bit different in that it's moving people around versus moving people around necessarily in a tour fashion, giving like feedback and stuff. Like they're a bit different, but I would say Travel Drumheller, we're always looking to build those relationships and get more information on the full picture of transportation in the valley.
Well, and I want to just congratulate that you're still continue on with Travel Drumheller. You finished the destination development plan, and now you're working on this, which was also a big part coming out of that destination development plan. So
Thank you.
Congratulations on your next new role.
Thank you, Crystal.
Anybody else? I just echo Tom's thing with funding, because obviously we don't have a lot in our own budget to operate. So I'm hoping that whoever's helping with this is really trying to make that either offset its own costs, or because it's, I can assure you in the budget for what's ahead to try and finish the community, there's not a whole lot here. So I hope it's not a case of just expecting the town to offset this.
Yep, we're aware.
Okay, Perfect. Okay, can I get a motion for that presentation, please? Crystal?
I move that council accepts the Exploring Transportation Opportunities presentation by Travel Drumheller as information.
Seconder? Tony, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for that, Lana. All right, let's move on to 8.1.1, please, Esther.
Okay, administration has received an application by an adjacent landowner to the alley between 177 Fifth Street and 193rd Fifth Street in Nakmine to permanently close it to the public. Currently, the alley is semi-grassed and not being maintained by the town. Additionally, the alley is redundant as there are 3 other entrances to the rear of the houses in addition to the alley that is proposed to be closed, and that is presented in the attached map. Proposed bylaw 7.25, which intends to close this section of the alley, went to council for first reading on February 18th, and a public hearing for the bylaw was held on March 17th, 2025, in accordance with Section 22 of the MGA. No written submissions were received and no individuals registered to speak at the public hearing. The proposed bylaw 7.25 was reviewed and approved by Alberta Transportation as well on May 23rd, 2025. Now that the signed package has been returned, second and third reading are required to close the roadway. As the alley is not being used, the town of Drumheller is planning to place a temporary road closure on the alley to stop any continued use of the alley and allow the grass to recover. Concrete barriers have been placed at each end of the alley. This temporary road closure will remain in place until the conclusion of a permanent road closure, or should council choose to defeat this proposed bylaw. Our recommendation today to council is that council give second and third reading to Nakmine 5th Street Alley Closure Bylaw 7.25. Further financial impact is rather minimal. It's our usual administrative costs associated with this road closure process. Most of this is covered by the applicant through the application costs. This is in line with our strategic policy, as council and administration like to close road allowances that are unused or unnecessary for public travel in order to reduce associated costs of road maintenance. We've reached out to the community on the communication side multiple times on this specific application through the public hearing process, and including reaching out directly to adjacent landowners that are within 200 meters of the road closure.
All right, council, can I get a motion, please? Tom?
I move the council give second reading to Nakmine 5th Street Alley Closure Bylaw number 07.25 as presented.
Seconder, please. Stephanie, comments? So just curious, so this application, do they want to buy this property? Okay, because we don't want a road closure and then still have to look after it. Okay. So it's been approved. If we do second and third reading, then you guys can sell it.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, any other comments? All in favor of second reading? Carrie, can I get a motion for third reading, please? Crystal?
I move that council gives third and final reading to Nakmine 5th Street Alley Closure Bylaw number 07.25 as presented.
Seconder? Tony? Comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Esther. Let's move on to 8.1.2, please. And
That is me as well.
that is you as well.
So I'm presenting a briefing note on our municipal development plan review project. So pursuant to section 632 of the Municipal Government Act, every municipality must adopt by bylaw a municipal development plan, or an MDP. An MDP sets the vision and direction for the growth and future land use within the municipality. The town of Drumheller adopted our MDP bylaw 17.20 on December 7th, 2020. Section 13.1C of the MDP states that, quote, a comprehensive review of the MDP must be undertaken every 5 years to consider administrative updates, emerging trends, implementation progress, and policy gaps. After the adoption of the MDP, amending MDP bylaw 17.22 was also passed in early 2023 to implement just a few minor changes related to specific design standards for our berm design in our flood mitigation project. Again, pursuant to this section in the bylaw, administration is currently working with Palliser Regional Municipal Services to complete a review and develop proposed updates to the MDP, ensuring the document remains a relevant and effective tool for guiding land use decisions and supporting our long-term community goals, while also aligning land development with existing and future municipal infrastructure. These proposed updates will come to council in later this summer. Due to the short deadline to complete the project, the review will mainly focus on flooding, parks and trail sections, with a review of the other sections, which there are quite a few, scheduled for no later than 2027. Administration's direction to council today is just to receive this as information. But we will, with the intent that we will be bringing a revised bylaw for first reading to council later in July.
Comments? This is just for information, so I'm not calling a motion first. Does anybody have a comment? Tom?
Yeah, just, we regularly look at the municipal development plan. We have revised it many, many times over the years. And hopefully there are people out there that if they do look at the current plan, might have an idea, might have a suggestion, might want to change something. And so this is what we're looking for is there anything in here that, you know, might be better, might be changed?
Anybody else? Yeah, so echoing that, this one from this information is just focusing on changing on the flood part of it to update that. So we should have that done this fall, correct?
Your worship will actually have revisions for council and the public's review late July.
Okay. And the other ones, Tom, you're referring to, they'll probably be included in the 2027 one because I've made it clear that I will somewhat haunt them if something's not recorded regarding, so that we don't have neighborhoods in the future that don't have curbs and gutters and sidewalks, so that the next future councils don't continually have to try and recover and fix up the past on those ones. So I'm asking for very serious efforts to be put in this, and Esther has assured me that it will be included. So just wanted on the record that no more communities without gutters and sidewalks, right, Jared? See, he agrees. Go ahead.
So when it comes to the flood mapping specifically, because I'm wearing my Palliser Regional Municipal Services hat, often Palliser uses that mapping, and when it comes to subdivisions and all that, so this will be the same on both sides as town and Palliser, because right now there's kind of a bit of confusion between the two. So everything's going to be the same now. That's the goal.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, Palliser is part of why we engaged Palliser to be so hands-on with this review. We could have went down an external consultant, planning consultant to review this. However, Palliser knows the information very well. So that was the goal.
Any other comments? All right, can I get a motion, please? Stephanie.
I move that council accepts the briefing note on the municipal development plan review project as information.
Seconder. Tony. All in favor? Carrie, thank you for that. Just a reminder, I'll be watching. 8.1.3, please, Daryl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I bring before you a request for decision for an award of excellence for nomination for Councillor Lisa Hanson-Zacharek. As we all know, Lisa passed away earlier this year, and Alberta Munis has at their annual conference, they award awards of excellence for public officials, mostly councillors who have excelled in their field and may have been a longstanding councillor or have done other acts that have sort of set them apart. And so administration is proposing that the town of Drumheller posthumously nominate Councillor Hanson-Zacharek for the Alberta Municipalities Award of Excellence. The Award of Excellence recognizes past and present elected municipal officials with outstanding civic leadership. The nomination deadline is in 2 weeks, June 27th, and it would recognize her for exceptional service to the municipality and her lifelong contributions to the community of Drumheller. So as we know, Councillor Hanson-Zacharek had been a councillor for nearly 15 years at the town of Drumheller. And during that time, at least during my time, she was displayed great values of leadership, dedication, and integrity to the community, as well as to council and administration. In addition to some of her appointed roles on boards and committees, she also contributed to several initiatives that helped shape the direction of the community and was deeply committed to improving the lives of Drumheller residents. She had a passion for helping others and was actively involved in numerous community causes and volunteer efforts. Her accomplishments include completing the full 100-kilometer kidney march in 2013 to raise awareness and support for kidney health. Councillor Hanson-Zacharek will be remembered not only for her public service, but also for her compassion, strength, and love for her family and the community she helped shape. Her passing has left a deep impact on the community and certainly within these walls. The town wishes to honor her legacy appropriately through this nomination. Councillor Hanson-Zacharek's record of service and enduring commitment to Drumheller make her an exemplary candidate for this honor. So we are recommending that council direct administration and to work with council. I believe already Councillor Zariski and Councillor Clough have helped provide some information to help prepare and submit a nomination for the late Councillor Lisa Hanson-Zacharek to the Alberta Munis Award of Excellence.
Thanks, Daryl. Can I get a motion, please? Tom?
Yeah, I move the council direct administration to prepare and submit the posthumous nomination of the late councillor Lisa Hanson-Zacharek to the Alberta Municipalities Award of Excellence.
Seconder, please. Stephanie, comments? Tom?
Yeah, I'll certainly echo all of Daryl's comments. Had the pleasure of working with Lisa for many, many, many years, and absolutely the epitome of a municipal councillor. If every councillor in Alberta could be as good a municipal councillor as Lisa Hanson-Zacharek, I think all of the communities would be in very good shape. So very, very deserving nominee for this award.
I echo everything you said, and she's already missed at this table, and we really hope that everything that we send in, they see it the same way. All right, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, Crystal, you got an announcement before I go any further?
Yes, I jumped the gun when it came to the FCSS committee. We're only in second reading, so that hasn't happened yet, but look forward to it coming to third reading, and then you can apply.
Thanks, Crystal. All right, 8.1.4, please, Esther.
Thank you. So this request for decision is with regards to the upcoming Alberta Municipalities Convention this fall. So beginning in 2019, Council has supported resolutions brought forward to Alberta municipalities expressing a need for equalized rates for electricity distribution and transmission charges across the province of Alberta. At the Alberta Muni Spring 2024 Municipal Leaders Caucus, the minister did mention that they are looking at ways to address distribution and transmission charges. However, no concrete steps have been taken to date. The City of Grand Prairie is once again seeking to pass a resolution at the upcoming 2025 Fall Alberta Munis Convention to support the implementation of equalized rates for electricity transmission and distribution. They are seeking sponsorship of their resolution by the town of Drumheller. Administration is therefore requesting council direction, as we would need to provide a motion of council in support of the resolution before June 30th, 2025, should council wish to support this initiative. A little bit further into the discussion on this, due to the lower population density and distribution of sites, customers in the ATCO service area pay approximately 4 times more in distribution charges than in Edmonton or Calgary service areas. Between 1961 and 2016, the urban population of Alberta increased from 63% to 83%, which is one of the fastest urbanization shifts in the country. As the province continues to rapidly urbanize, this issue is expected to worsen, placing an even greater financial pressure on the rural communities and residents that are outside of Edmonton and Calgary. Electrical infrastructure serves as a public asset that benefits all residents of Alberta. Much like the provincial road system, the associated costs of this infrastructure could be distributed equitably across the entire tax base rather than being disproportionately borne by rural communities. By equalizing these costs, the province would send a clear message that rural communities are not only valued, but are integral to Alberta's future growth and prosperity. Rural Alberta is essential to the economic development of our province. Despite only representing 18% of the provincial population, rural Alberta is home to 41% of public and private investment and 26% of the provincial GDP. However, the high operating costs caused by distribution fees present a significant barrier to our economic development and new businesses and investment to our communities. The financial impact of this request, there are no associated costs with endorsing this resolution. Lower electricity distribution and transmission costs would benefit residential and commercial customers in Alberta by decreasing operating costs. Communication strategy, the motion will be provided to the City of Grand Prairie to include with their resolution submission to Alberta municipalities. No further communication strategy is required at this time.
Thank you, Esther. Can I get a motion, please, Tom?
Just a point of information, Your Worship. I'm wondering about the motion. Just wondering if it should be, rather than sponsors, should be something like second, you know what I mean? Seconding,
That's the way City of Grand Prairie wants it.
because we will be seconding that motion
But we're a sponsor
resolution.
and seconding the motion.
So they want sponsor in there?
Yeah, that's their request.
Yeah, okay. I will make that motion.
Please, thank you.
I move that council sponsors the City of Grand Prairie electricity distribution cost resolution as presented for consideration at the Alberta Municipalities 2025 Fall Convention.
Seconder, please. Tony, comments? Tony?
Yeah, and again, just to back up about 6 years here is this council initially started this resolution with Alberta municipalities, and Grand Prairie had sponsored us and were successful in doing that. Issues and distribution rates have not been resolved to date. However, we continue to lobby through Alberta Munis, and now it's just City of Grand Prairie carrying the ball, and us continuing to support that work to have that move forward. So I have my full support behind this.
Crystal?
Yeah, and I really hope whoever's sitting at this table come the next municipal election that they're going to put the support behind this, because it just doesn't only affect us, it affects a majority of our population here in Alberta. So I really encourage whoever is considering running for municipal election that you really do read up on the electrical distribution, because you'll be attending the fall conference and it's good information to have.
Anybody else? Just give some facts here that I got back. Well, this is going back in 24, but ATCO customers, there's 230,000. There's 60,000 per kilometer of line, which means there's customers per kilometer of each line is 3.83. But if you take NMAX, for example, they have 526,000 customers, and their customers per line are 61.25. So basically, if they were added cents and to their bill, we would reduce. And I'm not sure why this is a constant, we have to constantly lobby for this, because it's no different than highways. We all use highways, and yet they're equalized across the board. Electricity should be the same, because it should be equalized across the board. I know that our MLA Nate Horner's brought this forward. In Edmonton, there's lots of lobbying for it. So yes, to those who continue to run or who will be sitting at this table, I encourage you to stay on this and not let it go. Because say even back in 2019, when Councillor Makaweki presented it at Alberta Municipalities, we had 87% support on it. It was brought again a couple of years later. The only ones that really went against us were Calgary and Edmonton at the convention. So I'm just not sure why this thing keeps getting stalled, but we must keep it forward. So, all right. Any other comments?
I just wanted to add one comment just from a historical perspective, is that Alberta is the outlier in Western Canada, right? Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia all have a unified cost sharing for urban and rural areas. So when it comes to whether you live in the lower mainland or in northern BC, you still pay the same for transmission and distribution costs, and only Alberta is different that way. So again, from our perspective, what this does is continue to create the urbanization of Alberta, because it promotes cheap electrical power in the major centers and drives economic activity away from rural areas, which therefore drives people away from rural areas to urbanize. So it becomes much more than just simply the bill that you're paying today. It's about trying to preserve these communities for years and decades to come.
Yeah, it's a great summary. And thank you to the Council of Grand Prairie for continuing to push this forward. And I hope the Council of 2025 here that attends anew the next Alberta municipalities is fully supportive of this. All right, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, I guess we're going to go to this briefing note. So I will call Mitchell ahead, please, Mitchell.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Thank you for adding this emergent item to the agenda. My name is Mitchell Visser. I'm the Manager of Legislative Services. So before you, I have a briefing note. Again, thanks for adding this to the agenda. It's added as quite an important legislative update. So on June 11th, 2025, the Access to Information Act, ATA, and the Protection of Privacy Act, POPA, I guess is the acronym we're going with, came into effect along with its regulations. With the proclamation of these two pieces of legislation, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act has been officially repealed. So the FOIP Act was first proclaimed on October 1st, 1995. And so it's been with us for quite a long time. And that acronym has been with us for quite a long time. So that's a big change. So essentially, the two components of the FOIP Act has been separated. So there's the Freedom of Information section and the Protection of Privacy section. In a lot of jurisdictions, these are separate pieces of legislation. Alberta has separated these two into the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. So in terms of how this affects us, the town of Drumheller has obviously has a FOIP program pursuant to the FOIP Act. And we have a number of pieces of municipal legislation and bylaws and policies that outline how we take access information requests and how we deal with personal information. Because of these changes, and because of Section 25 of the Protection of Privacy Act, which states that we must maintain a privacy management program, essentially all these pieces of legislation, or our entire FOIP program, is going to have to be updated. So that's quite a big substantial change. And in accordance with Section 25, this protection of this privacy management program will have to be implemented within 1 year of the enactment of the act. So a high-level overview of the changes are found in Schedule A and B, and I'll go into those shortly. And I'll just move on to how this also affects us in terms of our financial impact. So the fees for access to information requests have increased, which will allow for greater cost recovery. However, there are other impacts, specifically just significant time, staff time, to comply with these new pieces of legislation. We'll also have to make some significant updates to our website and our associated forms that we use for any kind of our programs that collect personal information. So anything like recreation waivers, for example, or anything related to business licenses, those will all need to be updated to comply with the new act. So additionally, there's some other requirements. So we'll be required to conduct what's called privacy impact assessments, and these are present in some other jurisdictions as well outside of Alberta. But essentially, whenever there is a program, a new program that collects personal information, administration will now be required to do what's called a privacy impact assessment, and that's identifying the certain safeguards, the risks that are inherent with this information, and the safeguards that we'll be using to protect personal information that we collect in implementing this program. So I'll try and keep this relatively brief because I know there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of big changes. I'll go over some of the major changes to the Access to Information Act. So the Access to Information Act, the majority of the changes actually give public bodies more flexibility in responding to access to information requests, and so and also more exceptions to disclosure. Some examples of this are pursuant to Section 9. A public body now has greater authority to disregard an access to information request for certain reasons, such as the request abusive, threatening, frivolous, vexatious. The information has been provided or published in another setting. There's insufficient information to process the request, or the request is overly broad or incomprehensible. And so those provisions related to reasons to disregard a request have been broadened. Additionally, there's also extended timelines related to access to information requests. So in the past, if we had an access to information request, we'd have 30 calendar days to respond to that request, either providing that information with some redactions, or refusing that access request. Now we have 30 business days, which is quite a large extension of time. And there's also additional extensions that can be applied with certain circumstances. Additionally, quite important is there's been a broadening of the exceptions to disclosure. So, for example, when a council goes in, so all closed sessions of council must be conducted in an open setting in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. So the only way that council can go into a closed session is according to these exceptions to disclosure. And so there's been an addition of workplace investigations is one of the exceptions to disclosure, and then also cabinet and treasury board confidence. That doesn't really affect us. But what does affect us is a broadening of the exception to disclosure for advice from officials, Section 29. So that now includes all records that could reasonably be expected to reveal advice, proposals, recommendations, analysis, or policies, options developed by or for a public body or a member of the Executive Council, including background, factual information, and information provided for informational purposes. So again, I've included also a list of the new exceptions to disclosure within this briefing note. A lot of these are the same. There is some additions, and then there's also some revisions to the certain exceptions to disclosure. And so just to reiterate that again, according with Section 197, everything must be, all council meetings must be an open session, and all decisions, all resolutions, and bylaws must be done in an open session. And then the only reason why a council would discuss any topic in a closed session would be due to one of these exceptions to disclosure. And furthermore, all the motions to enter a closed session would have to reference one of these exceptions to disclosure. So what you'll see in the agenda packages moving forward is we'll no longer be citing exceptions to disclosure for the FOIP Act, but from the Access to Information Act. Lastly, in changes to the Access to Information Act, public bodies are no longer allowed to make an access to information request from it to another public body. And so, for example, the town of Drumheller wouldn't be able to make an access to information request from the provincial government. There's also been some some general changes or administrative changes to the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner, but I won't go into that now. It will be included in your briefing note for information. Moving on to the Protection of Privacy Act, there's been some larger changes.
Mitchell, can I just, maybe we'll stop on those ones to see if there's any questions. Is there any questions up to that point? So basically, just to confirm, like when we have to go into a closed session right now, you guys refer to whatever section, which are like, as you have here in sections 19 to 34, that would still be the same. And basically, it's just things like land, legal, labor are still the basic criteria, is the only reason you can go into closed sessions.
Yeah, so the act has changed. So the specific sections that are being referenced are different, and some of those sections within there are slightly revised. And so, for example, Section 20 is similar to what was in the FOIP Act, disclosure harmful to personal privacy, but there's been some revisions to that individual section. So the process will remain the same. Just to bring to your attention that there has been some changes in the exemptions to disclosure, but ultimately generally what falls into a closed session is like you said, land, legal, labor. But these are the specific exemptions that need to be cited when a motion is made to enter closed session.
And we've always cited those anyways.
Yeah, so we have within the FOIP Act, now these will be these exceptions within the Access to Information Act, which has replaced the FOIP Act.
So it's replaced, but it basically similar, just a little more expansion of, is that what I went?
Yeah, that's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, good. Any other questions there? Okay, we can carry on to Schedule B.
Okay, so Schedule B, as I was stating, the Act was quite old, the FOIP Act was quite old, and there's been little changes since 1995. There's quite a lot of room for improvement within the Act, and some of these can be seen here where it's deepening the concept of privacy by default, trying to deepen the provisions that are there to protect personal information. So some of these major changes is a requirement for a privacy management program. Like I said earlier, the town of Drumheller and other public bodies will have 1 year from the enactment of the Privacy Act to enact a privacy management program. And again, this will be a set of policies and procedures that outline how we handle information. Primarily, it's outlining the administrative, physical, and technical safeguards that are in place to protect personal information that we are in custody of. And it's also, so it's not only necessarily just how we protect personal information, but also data derived from personal information and non-personal information, which is data that's been anonymized. And I'll get into that a little later. Also, the requirement I mentioned briefly, privacy impact assessments. This will be something that we'll have to do for any new program that's implemented or new services that's implemented that uses personal information. So again, any kind of, if we're doing a recreational program that uses personal information as part of like a waiver or anything in that regard, that would need a privacy impact assessment. There's certain situations where that privacy impact assessment would actually need to be sent to the Information and Privacy Commissioner. That's usually when there's a larger scale program that requires maybe more high risk of disclosure. Moving on, breach notifications. There's increased provisions related to breach notifications. So in the past, a breach would only need to be reported to the Information and Privacy Commissioner. Now this needs to be reported to the minister as well as the individual whose data is breached for whatever reason. Non-personal data, there's also more ability for municipality to use anonymized information for research purposes, planning, or program service evaluation. Data matching involves linking two or more databases, and this is something that was absent prior. Again, this allows municipality to use personal information that's been anonymized to a certain degree to actually, again, use it for research analysis, planning, administering, delivering, managing, monitoring, or evaluating a program or service. Common or integrated program or service is another addition which allows the municipality to work collaboratively with another public body. As well, one of the one of the last changes is increased penalties. So in the past, the maximum penalty for an individual was $10,000, and for an organization was $500,000. These penalties have been increased significantly. So this has changed to $125,000 for an individual and $750,000 for an organization. And then as well for penalties regarding Part 3 of the Act, which is due to data matching and non-personal data. The increase in the penalty has increased to up to $1 million for an organization. So that's quite a large change as well. And then lastly, collection, use, and disclosure of personal information. Just as I mentioned earlier, there is some changes in how a public body can collect, use, and disclose personal information. And that will need to be reflected in a lot of our administrative forms that we use to collect personal information as part of our programs. So that's a very high level overview, and a lot of it is somewhat technical and probably a little boring, but hopefully that provides you a little bit more context. Overall, the message I want to get across is this is a big change. It's going to be a lot of work for administration to implement these new changes, specifically in regards to the privacy management program and in terms of the privacy assessments. And you'll probably see these changes come over the next year.
Since it's a briefing note, got any comments before we accept the briefing note? Go ahead, Crystal.
Sorry, just trying to find my notes here.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so occasionally the town gets requests for information. I don't really see anything in here that would significantly change what is kind of the usual process and the usual requests for the town. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so that's correct for the most part, especially in regards to access to information requests. Really, the Access to Information Act, the biggest change is in regards to giving public bodies more flexibility in how they handle access to information requests. So again, those timelines have been extended quite significantly. If a municipality is overloaded with a lot of access to information requests, it has a lot of provisions in order to handle that. So there can be further extensions. Again, if there's a request that the municipality feels is not in the vexatious to whatever degree, or doesn't have the right intent or good intent, right? It's not done in good faith, then the municipality has an ability to deny that request. So again, I think overall the process will remain very, very similar for the access to information request. There's just a little bit more flexibility on the municipality side to how to handle those.
Anybody else? Crystal?
So I'm just kind of thinking of all the FOIP stuff. So this is going to include things like the FCSS grants applications, the Drum Life grant applications, volunteers. So just there's a lot of work that's going to happen on staff. So when there are FOIP requests, there is a fee that they have to pay for in order for a FOIP request, correct? So hopefully that can recover some of those costs with all that as well.
Yeah, and those fees have increased slightly, and so there's a little bit more of an opportunity for cost recovery there. But I think overall, there's going to be a lot of upfront work for staff because you're absolutely right. It really touches all of our records and all of our programs, and so there's going to be a lot of upfront work over the next year for that.
And again, this isn't we're wanting to this. We have to do this.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's legislative for the province. And like even when you're saying, it's not like you're giving people's names if they want to say how many are at the pool at this certain time. You don't say the names of who they are. It's, if you're gathering data, it's just for numbers, correct?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Well, I'm just trying to say how to explain when you're saying if you need it for data purposes, you're not using people's names, you're using the data supplied for information.
Yeah, so to give some more background, so the Access to Information Act and the FOIP Act similarly, whenever whenever a municipality or public body collects information, it has to state exactly what the purpose of that collection of information is for, and so exactly what we're going to be using it for. And usually they'll be on the individual form itself that says pursuant to the Access to Information Act or the FOIP Act previously, the municipality is collecting this information for the purpose of administering this program, and it will give specifics on kind of why that information is being collected, and the municipality is bound to only use that information for that purpose.
Okay, and so is this effective, like you're asking us to accept this as a briefing note? Is this name change go into effect now?
Yeah, so the FOIP has been officially repealed, and so this is effective now. The next steps for administration is we're going to make some changes, likely to the website is probably the first step. So the actual access to information process will have to be updated to reflect the changes, and then over the next year, we'll come forward with more information on how we're uh, changing some of the program, adjusting some of these policies or bylaws to fit with the changes in legislation.
So chances are this has got 7 to 10 bylaw policy adjustments ahead of you?
Yeah, at least I would say.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think so. It's really early to say exactly how much work is required, as the extent of how many privacy impact assessments would be required will be known a little bit more in the future, I guess, depending on. Uh, we'll have to look a little closer at the regulations. They're just released today. So once we get a closer look at the regulations, we can provide more information on what this change will look like. But just from looking at it now, again, I kind of included a list of the bylaws and policies that deal with FOIP. And so all these would probably need to be changed in some capacity. And to give you a little bit of a concept of the scale, it also affects the records management, how we deal with records. For example, one of the aspects that we want to look at is identifying what records need to be routinely disclosed, and so that those aren't subject to a FOIP request. And that's another aspect of how we retain records, how we destroy records, how we publish records, also fits in within these changes to legislation. So it is quite a bigger scope than maybe it appears right off the bat.
And they've given you a year for this?
Yeah, especially in regards to the privacy management program, there's a year to implement this. Some of the other changes will need to be done a little quicker, but we'll have to prioritize some of those based on. Again, we'll focus on the access to information section of that, and we'll provide more information on the kind of a program or a schedule in the near future.
All right, any other questions? Can I get a motion, please? Tony?
I move that council accepts the briefing note on the Access to Information Act and Protection of Privacy Act as information.
Seconder? Stephanie? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Tony. Okay, let's move on, and thank you, Mitchell. Great presentation and getting stronger every day. 8.2.1, please. Connor. Greg.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just as an introduction, my name is Connor Schwader. I'm the Junior Project Manager. Along with me today is Greg Storch, the Operations Manager for the Town of Drumheller. Today we're here to present the request for decision for the cold storage building. This has one motion for the award to Vertical Building Solutions for the award amount of $377,836.25, excluding GST. To provide a little bit of background on this project, Council awarded the town or approved a $400,000 budget in 2025 capital program. The town currently manages one cold storage building that is 40 feet by 80 feet. It currently stores all of our salt and sand. This building or this storage building currently does not have any type of a liner to mitigate any leaching of the salt and sand into the soil. So this is something that Greg and I strategically planned in regards to the new cold storage building, which will have all of the salt and sand in it. We've included an HDPE liner, which will help support any leaching of those contaminants. We've also developed some type of a plumb or system that will catch all of that leaching and contaminants into a catchment system or tank, which will then be sucked out through a hydrovac. Just for a little bit more background, so in 2021, we had an environmental site assessment that was conducted on the old public works site, which had notified that there were a significant amount of contaminants of salt and sand, which had caused us to have to remediate all of it, all the soil. This project also included the removal of all of the soil at the old hospital site, which was then transferred to the old public works site, which this was a capital cost of $825,000 for this project. So it's a large upfront cost to get that. And the goal was for the public works site was to get it so it was developable or sellable. So that's why we had to do that project. So we're trying to prevent this from happening in the future or mitigate this by building the new storage building with an HDPE liner so that we don't have to worry about doing this in the future. So the new storage building will be 65 feet by 80 feet. It will also be the primary facility for all the salt and sand. It will have a garage door opener that will be able to get large heavy equipment in and out of that facility. So the town conducted a request for proposal on May 8th. This was open for 1 month for all proponents to submit any bids. Based on this, we had 28 registered suppliers. Of those 28, only 6 had submitted proposals, which is a 21% submission rate. Based on those, we had received the most highest and qualified proponent of Vertical Building Solutions, which they had demonstrated past experience of doing this at a high level. So we would like to proceed with awarding the project to Vertical Building Solutions for the amount of $377,836.25. Thank you, Your Worship and Council. If you have any questions, we're happy to address them.
I'm impressed. Look at you go. Can I get a motion, please, Council? Crystal.
I move that council approves the award of the request for proposal for the cold storage building project to Vertical Building Solutions in the amount of $377,836.25 plus GST, and that it be funded from the 2025 capital budget.
Seconder. Stephanie, comments? Crystal.
This could just be me because my hair is very blonde. But when I was reading your request for decision, I have initially thought contract to VBS. Why are they contracting to Valley Bus Service? So I just want to make it clear it's actually Vertical Building Solutions, not Valley Bus. And because I had to go through it, I'm like, what? This doesn't make sense. But I get clued in. Next question: what are you going to do with the old storage, cold storage?
The old building's gonna turn into cold storage for equipment. We have a lot of equipment that is sitting outside in the yard now that it's a lot of money sitting out in the yard exposed to the sun. It's hard on the equipment. So we're trying to shift stuff over to the salt and sand into the bigger building so we can put more capacity in there. And then the existing building will turn into a storage facility.
One more. This might seem like a lot of money, but if we think about 10, 15, 20 years down the road and we have to remediate, guaranteed is probably going to be 5 times as much. So, yeah, looking forward to not have to remediate any more of our land. So thank you.
Anybody else? Tom?
Yeah, just wondering if this is required under legislation. Like one would think that there would be some legislation that would say if you are gonna store this stuff, you have to have the liner, you have to have, is that? Like I'm very surprised if it wouldn't. I mean, considering what happened at the old public works site. Is there legislation that guides that?
I haven't seen any directly that states that we have to put an HDP liner or any type something that would catch that. But from an environmental stewardship perspective, I think it's a great idea that we do that, so we don't have to remediate it in the future when it, costs expedite significantly.
Anybody else? Yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of this. We lost a deal on a pretty good builder in town because of the contamination of the salt. And hopefully once that whole property is remediated, they'll come back and reconsider. But I'm glad that you guys are being proactive on this because it's something that, yeah, we don't want to see again in the future. And I'm absolutely impressed with your knowledge, both of you. So well done. It's nice to see you come all prepared. All right, and all in favor? Carried. Well done. Thank you. Okay, can I get a new ATIA 29 advice from officials motion, please? Tony.
I move that council close the meeting to the public at 5:50 p.m. to discuss boards and committees as per ATIA 29 advice from officials.
Seconder, please. Stephanie. All in favor? Carried. Thank you to listening public. We will be closing this off as soon as we complete this area. So wishing you all a great week. Again, reminder to help us out for July 1st. Jared just said thank you. I meant to catch Greg there. Great shout out to your team. The community's starting to look really great. And we just would appreciate all help from all businesses and residents to clean up their properties. So we have the cleanest, friendliest, most sought after community for July 1st. Take care. Have a great weekend. Look after yourselves.